And thank you so much to So for being here and leading this conversation tonight. So's, and if you don't know their work already, So is a writer, editor, bookseller, organizer, and film curator. Their most recent book is Bad Language from Peninsula Press, a memoir and manifesto on language and power, and is on sale tonight as well. So while you're picking up your jaw fillers, you can also support So. I'm just going to read some formal introductions for you guys as well, your bios, and then we're just going to get stuck into it. So, I'm sure you already know, but Maz Murray is an artist who makes films, writing, performances, and things. They had their first institutional solo show at Focal Point Gallery in 2024, and he is currently working on a collaborative performance, Plot Hole, developed while an awardee at Studio Voltaire. Charlie Markbreiter is the author of Rapid Onset, Anti-Trans Culture and US Imperial Decline and Gossip Girl fanfic novella, and is a PhD candidate at the CUNY Graduate Center. That's enough from me. Thanks, guys. Enjoy the talk.
Thank you, Hasti. I'm not really sure what to do with this light, but I feel at some point maybe I could interrogate you with it. I've just moved it so that I can see Maz and Charlie, who are tonight's stars. And I was hoping that you might kick us off with a reading from Jaw Filler.
Yes.
Have one, Mikey.
We would love to do that.
Thank you.
First question.
Wait, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Can anyone here read? Put your hands up if you can read. Would anyone want to do some audience participation? Yay!
Okay, great. Come on stage.
Come on
Thank
stage.
you. Let's
Come-
give it
please
a
come
round
to
of
the
applause.
stage.
Round of applause. Round of applause.
38. Yay!
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Hello, what's your name?
You guys thought intros were over. They are not. They're not. Do you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, I'm Julia.
Hey, woo! Oh, great.
Oh, God, I should put the wine down. That is not book friendly.
Okay, so we thought we'd read this chapter, this very mysterious chapter. Oh, we do need one more person. Anyone? But do we have enough books or microphones? Probably not.
I can share mine.
Yeah?
Like choir.
Yeah, come on, Hasti. Woo!
Let's go.
Okay, so, okay.
Should I put them?
One after the other. I will read all the other.
Okay, cool.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, yay, action,
We've been watching this subject for a while.
said Executive Assistant number 5.
Our VR team is very excited.
Kevin. He's Kevin Sr.'s kid, right?
Yes, but best not to bring that up in person. It's a sore subject.
Do they not get along?
No, they do. That's the problem.
The executive chuckled and drummed his hands on the shiny lacquered table.
I don't know what I'd make of it if it was my kid.
Don't close yourself off now, Harry. It's ranking pretty high in the ratings these days. Well, it was 4 or 5 years back. Anyway, with those new anti-trans bills coming in, we're due to reach a whole new audience.
Virtual reality didn't really catch on last time.
That's the thing you have to understand. For the transgender, life is complex. They don't have their own spaces. It's not like the gays. The trans already have high engagement, low employment. They need all this stuff. Hormones and surgery, or at least some kind of pronoun. And all that's difficult to come by. So it's a much easier sell.
How many of them are there?
Not that many, but it's growing. Hard to get exact numbers, but this could be the perfect test run. I bet you we'd have people begging us to upload them, and with no family around to ask any questions.
And the kid is okay with this.
He doesn't know what he's okay with until it happens. Frankly, he couldn't find his ass with both hands. He'll come round. We'll let him keep his little cult and take care of the logistics.
What makes you think he'll say yes?
Kevin Sr., his dad. The kid wants to make his own money. The more you inherit, the more you need to feel self-made. Whatever. We all have our delusions. He'll want in.
My buddy in accounting has actually looked at the numbers and...
Maybe Kevin Jr. is just a fuck-up. Not even just because of the trans.
This is precisely why we need to get in now. I'm sure that Kevin will be canceled, Any day now. It's already brewing. He'll want to abdicate some responsibility. Besides, we'll need some sort of pivot for the ongoing supply chain delays.
Understood. When can I meet him?
Great choice. You won't regret it.
Now, executive assistant number 5 was happy. He'd already mocked up a few potential promotional images. In one, a CGI improved Kevin shuddered in GIF format above the words, "You don't need dysphoria to be trans. You don't need a body at all." I'm just going to let our amazing performers sit back down. Oh my God, you were so good. That was amazing. Oh, thank you. Oh, I have to say, you have an amazing voice. I feel like we need to hire you to do the audiobook. Like, that was so good. Okay, we're just going to finish off the rest of this chapter. Okay. I used to get really scared about what businessmen in meetings said about us, what thing they were going to market next, as if I were in any danger of being offered the good life from them, or from anyone at all. There's enough evil to be found in badly formatted websites, poor graphic design, and reliable old-fashioned hate. I found myself getting annoyed at faux inclusion while dodging slurs and punches on the street. Was I annoyed that my identity was being taken and repackaged, or that I couldn't afford to buy it back? I raged as the term non-binary became more and more associated with an aesthetic which I coincidentally found unappealing, before remembering all the places where nobody knew what non-binary was. I declared things over before they'd begun. Can I do?
My name is Casey, and I was given a grant to join FTCISW at a time when it seemed like I had no options left.
We were going to read one other little bit, if that's okay.
But we could also do it after. If you want to ask questions, then we could do it.
Oh, yeah, we could like break it up a bit. I don't know.
Are you in the zone? Are you in the flow?
Do you feel like you're in the zone?
I feel like we could do some experimentation in terms of format and do questions and then do the thing again.
Yeah, if there's a question we don't like, we would just start reading from the book.
Actually, my dream is chair. I'm going to steal a microphone from one of you and then give it back. So my first question was going to be about like the US-UK transatlantic partnership. And I know there is literally no pun that will make people happy, but I've come to love the groans. The collaboration. So when I was reading Jaw Filler by Maz Murray and Charlie Markbreiter, available on sale tonight, by two, because it was written by two people, so for the royalties, by two. I was thinking about one of my favorite cyberpunk novels, which was also a collaboration, which is Nearly Roadkill by Kate Bornstein and Caitlin Sullivan. And I'm such a grumpy motherfucker writer. Like, how did you write a book together without murder?
Yeah, we were actually just saying earlier that we didn't argue or have a fight or anything, and I'm not sure how. I think that's thanks to Charlie for being a great collaborator and being super understanding, and also maybe different time zones on the same Google Doc. So I think the transatlantic is coming into it there.
I'll explain. So, right before this happened, my dad met Maz's dad for the first time. Well, he's giving it away. No spoilers. So, it turns out they were at the same university, in the same college, in the same time. It's almost like they were in the same time period, but at slightly different places, and yet they were sharing something. Are you guys noticing something? I'll leave it there.
Wait, so you're saying it's genetic?
Yeah, I think it's something they call fate, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, fate is a powerful thread in the detective novel. And And yeah, I suppose I could ask lots of technical questions about plot and how you plotted it and were there spreadsheets? There were spreadsheets. Great.
So Maz makes amazing short movies. I love them so much. And one advantage to working with someone who makes movies is they'll say things like, so essentially like, where's the shot list? So Maz made like this one Google Doc that was like, here's every important narrative development that happens for each character in each chapter. And then we had another Google Doc that was like, what are all the major plot developments in each chapter? And Maz was like, there have to be plot twists in every single chapter. And I had really never thought of that before. And so I'm really grateful to him for that.
Maz, is that a fair representation?
Well, thank you so much. I feel like you definitely did a lot more Google Doc work than me. Like, I feel like that it really got the Google Doc in order. Like, it was color coordinated. It was yeah. It was serious business. But it was really fun to do because we started it off as kind of like a newsletter, and it was like a lockdown era project. And we put out a chapter a week or every 2 weeks on Charlie's Substack. And then after a while, we were like, oh, we're making this up as we go along and we're getting confused, and like, let's try and plan what happens. And like, then over the years, we like kind of had loads of meetings where we got to, like, the benefit of having the collaboration too is we would have these meetings where we're like, okay, like, what do we think of these characters? Like, what we trying to say politically? What do we want to happen plot wise? What kind of style do we want? And like, and with the detective thing, we were kind of like, at the time, wanting to do something really genre-y and fun that was maybe not what people expected for like that particular moment of trans literature. Although it's funny to think of now, like, that Kate Bornstein book from like the 90s is like kind of quite a similar vibe. But I suppose like writing something that wasn't like memoir or like realist, and like wanting to like really go to the extreme with like things like plot twists and to make it super genre-y and fun and silly and maybe not what people expected from like, and like have the transness be secondary to like that in some ways.
Yeah, if this is a novel about identity, I guess the identity is British identity versus American identity. So it is an ID Paul book.
Yeah, and in a sense, there's the dry British wit of the narration, and then the zingers of screwball comedy and noir. And there were moments I was actually lolling reading this book, getting stares from people on delayed trains. The dialogue is so much fun, and we got a little sample of it beautifully acted there. Is that something that was there from the very beginning, that you knew that you wanted to have that kind of, I guess, cinematic dialogue, and like you say, Maz, go into a genre and also an affect that is not associated with mainstream like tragic trans literature right now? Or did those voices sort of develop as you were playing between yourselves? I was going to say playing with each other, and then I just stopped.
Yeah, great question. I think I guess we set out quite intentionally with having these characters that are somewhat like archetypes, but maybe archetypes that are still relatively niche. And then they're quite heightened. So like the way they speak is quite arch. Like, I guess for people who's even read it yet, because it's not out. Some people, VIPs, but like it's basically written multiple first person perspectives. So there's like a lot of different. We have like a bunch of different characters that all speak hopefully with their own voice. We also wanted to each give them their own kind of style, which was really fun. So there's like the influencer guy speaks in that tone, and that was, I mean, I'd have to like props to Charlie for that, because Charlie kind of led the charge with that character. And I think it's actually really hard to write something like that isn't like, you have to get it right or it just clangs. And like when you watch like any kind of sitcom where they'll just throw in an influencer character and it's like just a little bit off, it's like kind of embarrassing. So I think we had to kind of have an empathy for Kevin and also like stylize him in our own way rather than being like this is a realistic depiction of an influencer. And then we had the detective who gives us the excuse to like use the kind of detective isms. Sorry, what was the question again? So yeah, like for the dialogue, I guess for me, like my background is somewhat doing like little short films and like that have a narrative bent to them. So I've written scripts before and like have more experience of that than writing prose per se. So I really like having things play out through dialogue, and having the characters interact with each other, I guess, rather than being kind of like stuck in their own little worlds.
Yeah, I think that working in archetypes, they're kind of like oh my god, sounds so annoying saying this. I was like about to be like, they're kind of like a masquerade ball where the appearance of the mask allows you to be real underneath. But like all cliches, like all cliches, including this one, you know, it's kind of true, right? Like, I think because you have the something between you and the world, and you know, you are hiding, you're severing that kind of like mimetic connection to your life. It allowed us to allow our characters to feel very real feelings, because it's kind of that the expectation of what you expect from a character is actually flipped when you are working with genre. So, for instance, because you know, people here familiar with, are English people familiar with Betty Boop? Okay, just want to make sure. So it's like when you're watching Betty Boop, you're not like expecting her to, you know, really be real with you about her emotions and go into like extensive detail about like what happened on the train on the way from work. So when you do get that, you know, kind of like, if you were suddenly like hearing Betty Boop's thought like narrated with like Virginia Woolf-esque, like, you know, Mrs. Dalloway vibes, you'd be like, wow, like she's being so real. Like Betty Boop is being so real right now. And yeah, I think on like a formal level, I kind of like that, for the Marxists in the room, that synthesis between, no problem. There is a giant painting of Marx in the bathroom, which I encourage everyone to check out. But yeah, I really like the synthesis between kind of first-person interiority and the kind of cutout shape of genre. Yeah.
That was great. Thanks. So I was just like, oh yeah, you're smart.
They were both great. It's probably also a good moment to say that the book is at least partially set in VR Sims world, where all of the characters pass through at various times. So we meet some of the characters only in VR and some of them in, are we calling it IRL anymore? I don't know. So it has this slightly animated quality as well. And the characters have experiences which wouldn't be possible in what in the 90s we called meat space. And that adds to the kind of mask effect of reflecting on, like, we all use online personas and what happens if you were to live 24/7 as your online persona. Sort of one of the questions the book poses. And I wanted to talk about cyberpunk because I am old and from the 90s, and that was a genre we had then. There is one, am I allowed to say this, mention of The Matrix in the book. It's very brief and it's then denied. So let's talk about the influence of The Matrix. I loved cyberpunk. It was probably one of the first places I encountered trans characters as a teen reader, and the possibility of, I don't know what's going on.
Sorry, Charlie was whispering in my ear that a second plane has hit the. No, it's fine actually. Don't worry.
Just stick to the goats. Read about the goats.
Just that, could you perhaps elucidate what cyberpunk is for anyone who?
So cyberpunk was a genre of science fiction that is cited as being kicked off by William Gibson's novel Neuromancer, which was one of the influences on The Matrix, and it was a genre of books that, at least in part, took place outside meat space in digital or VR spaces, and where bodies could be very fluid and desires were often very fluid as well. A lot of cyberpunk books are also detective stories, and they're often about tracing something that goes in and out of cyberspace and IRL. And they're very melty and fast paced. They're often quite zingy. So I was just like, yay, cyberpunk is back. But maybe with slightly better politics. And yeah, I wanted to know what your experience of cyberpunk was. Am I shaming you by citing this genre? And yeah, what should we have more of it?
Wow, yeah, you're calling us big nerds. No, I definitely, yeah, absolutely. I think it was like definitely a big genre for me as a teen. Like I remember finding a copy of Neuromancer, and like I think read some other William Gibson short stories. I was big into The Matrix as a kid. I remember it was probably like one of the first films from an age certificate that I wasn't supposed to watch that I watched, and then I was like big into it. And then kind of like sci-fi as a kid, and then actually read a bunch more Philip K. Dick novels recently, that kind of ones where he was really speeded out and having a time. And like then I guess the kind of feminist and queer science fiction was like kind of big for me as when I was like late teens, early 20s. So I like stuff like like Octavia Butler, and it was James Tiptree Jr. was really big for me. That's kind of an interest. Like I'm like never really sure what to call.
Do you want to say?
Yeah, so there's like a writer called James Tiptree Jr. who wrote under this pen name, like a male pen name, the whole career, but reveal was a woman called something else that I can't remember, but like kept up like friendships over letter with like Ursula Le Guin as James, and wrote like was really praised for having like a masculine prose and like things like that, which is kind of funny. But a lot of stuff in there really explores identity in interesting ways. Like there's one that I love that's about this girl who has a facial disfigurement, and she gets a job on a spaceship, and they has a horrible time, and all the men are so mean to her, and then they crash on this planet where everyone looks like her. And she has like a relationship with someone that she's like, this is my boyfriend, but they're obviously, I'm an alien. That what is that? But like has a really nice time, and I don't know. And they're all quite dark. There's one called The Girl Who Is Plugged In that kind of almost predates like The Influencer. So definitely had all of that kind of going on in my mind, and I like the detective pulpy vibe that a lot of those have, and they're being kind of like have a lot of stuff in common with experimental fiction, but have that kind of grounding in like people have jobs and stuff. So we were actually chatting about this yesterday, about cyberpunk, because it's also like in this, I feel like people's interactions with tech is much less utopian or subversive than in a lot of cyberpunk. Like I feel like there was that early era of cyberspace that was less tied to your like meat space identity. It was really interesting. Whereas this was, I guess, us trying to reflect on like the place we're in now, where it's like identity is really entrenched in like, and you can't really escape even online, and like the tech they're engaging with is like a bit cyberpunkier than like regular social media, but it's also like going to be absolutely precluded so quickly. Like it's like anything that could have been a bit exciting is like taken like so quick, and is also like not set up by like anyone that's subversive, and the more subversive actions that are taken are kind of like against technology in some ways. No spoilers.
Yeah, I mean, going off of what Maz was saying, I just started laughing because I remembered we're in his kitchen. I'm really jet lagged, really giving you guys behind the scenes, and I was like, "Can you just remind me what cyberpunk is, please?" Because I know So is a big fan, and he was like, "Yeah, so there's the big bad technology, but then you have like a stick or like a wrench, and you can just beat back the bad technology with that, you know, really." And I was like, okay, yes, okay, I know exactly what this is. And yeah, I think there was this kind of plucky optimism of early cyberpunk genre, even as it was kind of engaging with sort of like the allure of nihilism as well. Whereas, you know, in the kind of, it was interesting because we started this book before AI became a thing, and then by the time we finished it, it's becoming so hegemonic. And I was reading the other day how the like AI of the future that will really be necessary to do supercomputing basically won't be possible other than for like billionaires and authoritarian governments. So I was just thinking about that in terms of like cyberpunk being like, oh, even if you had the stick, maybe you even had a wrench and you're really smart, like you still don't have like oil reserves on like the level of like a city state. So like I don't know really how much you can do because you have to access not only like computing technology knowledge, you need like oil. It's kind of hard. So yeah, I would love to be wrong. But I think the characters in this book are engaging with technology on a sort of like I think at first optimistic level, and then on a practical and ultimately for others in a destructive way. That's all I'll say for now.
It is true that in the 90s cyberpunk, everything runs on sort of magic unobtainium or similar invented fuels, and that's something we're much more conscious just isn't going to happen now. I do want to ask about sabotage because that's another thing that I love, and I'm just not sure we're going to have to find a way to talk about it without spoilers. But I did think that one of the subtitles of this book could be how to blow up a data center, and no spoilers. Here we are at Housmans. It's an anarchist bookshop. Let's talk about sabotage. It's a very underrated plotline. Is like, let's blow shit up that belongs to powerful people. I love it. So yeah, from the description of the Substack, it sounds like you didn't know that sabotage was where you were going to end up. When did it become clear, and how did you develop that idea?
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you think it's a good plot point, because I guess we kind of got to a point where we were like, how do we have do we want like a happy ending? We were like, we don't want to be nihilistic, we don't want to just be like, which I think is maybe where I have some frustration with some cyberpunk. It can be a bit nihilistic. And we were like, well, but then it's like, well, fuck, how do I like come up with a really effective theory of change just for like my book? If I could do that, I would do it for like actual politics. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like we came up with something that kind of merges a bit of like the fantasy of the novel with like some stuff like how to blow up a pipeline that is a bit more realistic. And I kind of did think for a while of like asking people like, okay, like, so if you were going to if you wanted to sabotage something like this, or like if you wanted to sabotage a data center or like a piece of technology or the internet, like what would you do? Because I know a few people who are in like permacomputing kind of spheres, which is like kind of like degrowth kinds of technology, or like trying to like use like coding that doesn't use much energy, blah blah blah. But then I was like, no, I'm not going to do that, because that's probably going to be like really confusing for me. So I'm just going to like use fiction and make it up. So I feel like it's probably not a very good guide for sabotage, but hopefully at least like the imagination is there. And like it's, I guess the plus side of a book is that you don't have to like get into like all the consequences of everything that happens. You can kind of just like, and also like what's fun about our characters is that they're not like really like politically rigorous people, so they kind of don't need to be like coming up with these like amazing perfect strategies, because they're not political activists, which was also kind of fun to play with, and like made it more interesting for us to be like, what, they're people who are kind of selfish and like doing things that are self-serving as well as like ideological as well. I don't know, what do you think?
I just remember Maz being like, my YouTube history is getting really interesting. I was like, what do you mean? He was like, it's all stuff like, if encounter security camera, use acidic foam or spray paint, ? He was like, I have to go incognito mode. So yeah, you did really try to be specific.
Yeah, I was like, I'm on a list if I wasn't already, like, for sure. Although it's a good cover if I ever were to do something which I never would. It's all for the novel.
Yeah, I'm just reading a big history book about the Soviet dissident movement at the moment and the trial of two science fiction writers where the prosecution tried to claim that everything in their book could be read as a realist position that was attributed to the author, and their response just kept being like, dude, it's science fiction. It's fiction. It's science fiction. It's fiction. I mean, they got sent to the gulag anyway, but that the role of the imagination is what we could talk about next. Because as you heard in the section that was performed at the beginning, the executives behind this mysterious company, VSI, view the sim world as almost like a placebo or a methadone even for trans people who can't access healthcare, who can't access a safe and sustainable way of living. They're like, oh, just give them cake. But it's not cake, it's the internet. And at the same time, I was reading the book and enjoying the book and thinking, well, is reading a form of playing in SimWorld? Because I'm not in my body when I'm reading. So I wanted to talk about that relationship between escapism and imagination, and is one a negative value and one a positive value? Is there a difference between reading and immersing ourselves in VR? Like, just some small questions there.
Mm-hmm.
And I can clarify anything there.
Yeah, no, that's a really helpful question. I was just remembering something I forgot about cyberpunk, which is related, which is, the anti-trans movement in America. They are so cyberpunk in a way, because in the wrong way. But okay, so for some context, in like 2015, the conservative right wing in America, so like the Heritage Foundation, this was just after marriage had been legalized in the United States, so they had totally kind of lost from their POV, gone from like the hegemony of the moral majority and Reagan in the 80s to like gay marriage was just legalized, like how did we drop the ball there? And this was like a crisis for them, also because, marriage was about like asset transfer and like who will get property after your spouse dies. And so their strategy at that point was to shift to kind of what we now identify as like the anti-trans strategy instead of like the anti-gay strategy. And they were kind of really looking for a way to propagandize this movement because they didn't have the language for it yet. They literally were kind of, in some ways, inventing it in real time. And so they latched onto these. So gay people were not the only ones on Tumblr in 2014 and 15. I know, shocking. It was also their parents starting their own hate groups. And the reason that they were on Tumblr was because they were hoping to target trans teens and like basically detransition them. So as trans people were like making like, it gets better, like infographics, like you had these groups being like, it gets better if you detransition, tumblr.com, like .blogspot. And so the social contagion myth, which is basically just that the reason we have so much trans now is because vulnerable children spent too much time on social media, on the internet, and it made them trans. It gave them, that's where the contagion logic comes from, which is the contagion passed through the computer, like getting a flu from your screen, and it made them trans. This is why I was like, they're so cyberpunk, not in their politics, but in the way they've really, made the computer like a living being capable of like making you sick and corrupting children.
At the same time as they don't believe in real actual viruses.
Right. The contradictions are so heightened. Yeah, so I've remind us what the question was again, by which I mean me.
It was like
the role of the imagination
is a book kind of like virtual reality in its own way, and like I guess what is the difference? And I guess what you were saying makes me think of like another topic that you are a public intellectual on, fan fiction, which is like one of the things that like, you know, people read online when they're an impressionable teenager, and then they're like, oh my god, I read this slash fiction, now I'm a gay guy, and someone over there is like, my beautiful teenage girl, no. But it's like, I guess it's interesting because like you think of, I guess books, you think books are better than the internet, right? But what if maybe they're not? Is that, I'm like, you know, because like it's kind of a solo activity. I mean, I definitely like lived a lot through books as a young person, and probably like came to certain identities or ideas through books on my own rather than like in community out of like necessity. But I'm kind of like, it maybe would be better if it was in community and not through a book. And I guess the books offer, there can be community built around a book, and like has been historically. But then it's like this thing that one person came up with on their own has the power to like define like what the identity means. Like I always think of like, I don't know, something, it's kind of a basic reference, but like something like The Well of Loneliness, where like Radcliffe Cole was writing this big like mawkish like boohoo, my life is so hard like book, and then was meanwhile out like fucking everyone's wives in real life, and then being like, no, I'm just an invert, I can't help it, I'm gonna kill myself so soon, I promise. And then like actually in real life was like kind of having a different time, like, and it's like, I guess, and that's the thing with these books in general, and like maybe some of our frustrations about trans literature when we started this was like, who are you speaking to? Are you speaking to like this imaginary cis audience that you're trying to be like, we're so nice, or are you trying to reach out like to other trans people, or are you just kind of like going off on one? Or yeah, I don't know, it's funny to think about. Well, yeah, what do you think about books?
Yeah, they're good. Yeah, I guess feel free to ask another question also. I don't know if I had anything else to add.
I'm happy to jump in and then also to open it up to the audience. So I'll ask one more. So get your questions ready, and we can always use the interrogation light. And Maz and Charlie will also do another reading for us at some point. So one of the things I love about this book, especially because it's just been announced that in the US they're going to phase out the mass market paperback format, is this book looks like all the books that were on my parents' bookshelves in the 80s that were all by like Tom Clancy and James Clavell, and they all had this like super exciting font, and you sort of knew the book was about like sex and guns, and you could only buy them in airports. So I love that. And you know, I think Isabel Waidner, who has blurred the book, their books also have some of that like super fun, trashy, exciting vibe. And I wanted to ask, because you're using the phrase in the book, what is it about queer and trans people and private dicks? Why do we love detectives? So Holly Hughes wrote a play in the 80s called The Lady Dick, and I feel like since then everyone has just been like, that is the best joke that was ever made, let's do queer and trans detectives. But not enough, because I want more. And is there a sequel? And then we'll hand over to the audience. So yeah, why noir? Why the trench coats, the look, the private dick? And is this going to be a long running detective series?
Ooh, yeah. I mean, I guess like I suppose the private detective is quite a fun one because it gives you the kind of power of like this person who can snoop around a lot, but they're not a cop, so you can kind of like, and they can be a bit morally ambiguous, but like less linked to an institution, I guess, and they are kind of off out on their own. It feels very American to me. I don't know, I guess I don't know enough about like what they actually do in real life. It's probably just like divorce stuff.
Do we have any PIs in the audience? No, so it's fine, make it up.
Great. Yeah, so we were like, oh, and it's like, it's so used by fiction now that it's kind of like, well, it's just a trope in itself and you can just kind of make up what you want of it. But it's, I guess, such a trope of like masculinity as well. And like, I thought it would be quite funny to have this slightly inept detective as well. Like he's kind of not good at his job, like at all. And I also thought of it as like maybe he used to be someone who was really online and doing a kind of like your favor's problematic type sleuthing, and now he's like taken it into the real world, to some degree. And yeah.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And I guess I would add, um, I don't know. I think that existing as a trans person right now, because people are increasingly aware of what trans is, it's paradoxically made them more able to clock trans people, whereas before they might just be like, well, her, him, okay. I think, especially if you don't have access to the healthcare that will allow you to pass and reach that safety, you step outside and you're like, so that feeling of I'm always being watched, I'm avoiding certain textures of light, that's just like, that is, these are noir tropes, but it's also just like everyday life. And I think one way that, and to some extent, you're just adapting to that to survive. And then in other sense, but one kind of cope of that, which can be toxic, is to be like, oh, well, I can sort of solve that by internalizing the surveillance architecture and casting it out back onto the world. And I think that is also kind of a noir trope, because it's the trope of the detective who thinks, oh, it's a cruel world out there, but I can fix it through my hypervigilance and power of reason and slightly pessimistic outlook. And it's like, you actually can't. And you can say that again. You can say that again. And yeah, not to blow up her spot, but Macy Rodman, who blurbed our book, the beautiful yellow sticker, one of her music videos, it incorporates a lot of like surveillance imagery, which I mean, she can tell you more about afterwards, but I found that really helpful in like thinking about how I would talk about the book, because it's like, oh, you are also it's like, yes, you see the actual architecture of, the police state or paparazzi or whoever watching you, and also you're thinking about all the time, how are other people thinking about me, and you're watching that in a music video. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jump
Oh no, I guess. Oh, I thought I had a thought and then it went. But I agree with Charlie, and I think just using some of the detective tropes were fun to kind of like this kind of this conspiratorialism and this kind of paranoia, and like I suppose like sometimes that kind of paranoia feels like a present feeling of if transits, because you are kind of like, oh, is everyone looking at me, and like sometimes no, sometimes yes, and like if they are, what is it, can I affect that? No. And I guess also this idea of having these kind of informal economies of like DIY HRT and stuff like that, linking to this kind of genre tropes of like this underground network that like who knows how much that exists in real life. And in transness, it's often in this like really mundane way where it's like, oh, I have to go across town and give this person I don't like some hormones because I guess we're in community or whatever, like, and that kind of being quite rife for like that genre play. And it was also gave us an excuse to like have a femme fatale and have like everyone have these dark pasts. It's kind of like, why does he have such a dark past? Like, ooh, like who knows? So that was really fun to use.
Thank you. I'm gonna come around with a microphone to audience members who have questions. Thank you. You're familiar with the device already.
Hi, thank you. One, I love what you said about how hypervigilance can't save everything, but there's that kind of illusion. And I feel bad because this isn't a question. It's just something I thought of while you were answering the detective thing. I think there's this demonization of the ways that marginalized people figure out how to protect themselves. And so gossip historically is something that marginalized people aren't allowed to do, right? And so detective work is a way of kind of co-opting the secrecy that marginalized people had to develop while also operating as part of the state. And so taking that back from like mainstream detective stuff is kind of recognizing that the people who actually need that kind of solving of the world are those who are most stepped on by the state.
Oh, I love gossip. Yes. Any excuse.
Also, I love Mess, and Carmen Sandiego is really hot if anyone knows who she is.
Do you want to say anything to that? Or we like gossip. Well, you like gossip, girl. I wouldn't say she's marginalized particularly, but yeah.
No, I think that's totally right, and I think that a lot of that has been probably criminalized or looked down upon because it is so helpful to the people who are doing it, instead of being, yeah. And let's talk afterwards because you're so smart.
Yeah, and the voice is so good. We do, okay, where we need the audiobook. We need it. Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. I hadn't thought of like, that's a really good point about like gossip being this thing that then it's like, yeah, when it's like just people being like, oh, did you hear about like, and sometimes for safety, then it's gossip and it's frivolous. But then when it's like the fucking police going around throwing their weight around being like, tell me what you said the other day, it's like, oh, really important information that's official and true and legal and like the theater of like a court proceeding or something suddenly makes all this stuff like valid. Yeah, so thanks for that thought. It was really smart. Nice.
Other questions, comments, observations, offers to read the audiobook? I'm going to come to the back and then I'm going to go to the front.
Okay. Hello. I'm just curious, do you guys have a favourite character that because you crafted so many kind of brilliant, satirical, just like really fun people? And I guess like I'm curious, do each of you have a favourite? Or do you have a favourite that you share or one that you don't really like, you know?
Yeah, it's tricky because they all kind of suck in their own way. But you know what? I mean, I feel like this is kind of a cop-out, but I think, like, Michelle.
I knew you were going to
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm taking Michelle. I kind of have a soft spot for Ash, who doesn't even get a first-person perspective. But he is there.
This is so fucked up. I was about to name a physical object. All I'm gonna say is it's a block, and it is, as Maz wrote, extra confident about its blockiness, and you'll know it when you see it.
I think my favorite character was Enrique, who's kind of like evil, gay, corporate guy, who's kind of a bit of a cyberpunk trope. Like he's this just evil corporate villain, and like, yeah, loved to write Enrique. It was like great fun, but he's a bad guy. But you'll find out, I guess. Ooh.
I now have this vision of an alternate book that is narrated by the Block and the Blob, the objects' perceptions of the human characters.
Maybe that's the sequel that
Van Modernist.
people don't want.
This may be jumping the gun because I know this has just come out, but would you see this as a film? Or do you think there's something very specific about this as a book format, given that you, Maz, work across that format? And yeah, as you're talking about it, it seems quite cinematic as well.
Oh, well, damn, yeah. It would be nice. That would be really cool. I mean, it was fun to write this partly because as I was writing it, I was like, this is so fun. I don't have to pay for any of this. Woo! Like, yeah, like, let's do all of this. And then like, like a million characters and all these locations and like, we just drive across America and it takes like 5 minutes. Tee-hee-hee, like, da, da, da. No, like so high production value. But then I was like, yeah, like if you did, I guess you would have to do it a bit. You have to be a bit experimental. Money's no object. Yeah, I think it would be really fun. But also, there's part of me that likes that you know, with a book you have to, like the visual you create oh, it's not so gay, but like the visual create in your head when you're reading it is like more than a movie could do. So it would be like, I think it would have to be like a flawed, it would have to be like one of those like failed movies that then in 20 years someone is like, hey, remember that was not so bad, and they do like a rep screening and trans people come and they're like, oh, it's like kind of interesting, and like, did you know that this was a film? Oh, it's crazy. But like it would be fun to try and like cast it in your mind, but also I kind of love that like you, like, I don't know, we at one point we were thinking like it'd be really cute if we did a performance of some of the text, which I guess we kind of just did, and it would be more fun to kind of just like swap out who played the character all the time, even though the characters do have specific identities. It's kind of fun to play around with that as well and like work out how important that is, and maybe that speaks to the kind of online fantasy that actually most of the characters who interact with the online fantasy don't have that level of imagination. They just like recreate themselves, and like, could we work against the text if we were going to adapt it? Anyway, yeah, like tell Hollywood, get them involved.
I think I listen to like noir like film soundtracks while I was writing parts of the book. So like my friends would like be at my house and they'd be like, so like we listened to the soundtrack of Fire Walk with Me 3 times, and I think the rice is cooked in the rice cooker, so maybe we could put on anything else. So I would say, or like there was a phase where like they'd come over and be like, hey, like want to watch something? I'd be like, Twin Peaks: The Return. So yeah, I think and also yeah, no. Well, I also didn't really tell anyone that I was like writing this book because I was like, what if it doesn't happen? So that they were just like, why is this the only thing you want to do? I was like, but yeah, I think, one cinematic reference in the book. I feel so embarrassed bringing up any director in front of Maz, but because it's in the book, one of the characters, which is also like a kind of, where's mine? Watch 2 dying empires duel each other.
Yeah, sorry.
Whose is smaller? Okay, yeah. Oh right, I really love the way like Wong Kar-wai as a director like often will give you like really opaque, esoteric but imagery that you would not really like be able to understand or you would be bored by, but then he overlays it with like first person musings. So I do think like there are cinematic precedents for doing this kind of stuff stylistically, such as The Matrix.
Yeah.
Is this a good place to have another reading?
Yeah, let's do it.
By popular demand.
Oh my god, I can't hold my magnifying glass and the microphone at the same time. Life's so hard. No, it's okay. It's okay. Do you want to read it like each a little bit each? I think you can do accent work.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so I guess this is what I remember.
Oh yeah. Are you happy to read all of that, or do you want to swap it over?
Oh, we can swap it.
Whatever you prefer, really.
Yeah, we can swap it. It's so long.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we stand? Or
I want to sit down.
Okay, we can sit.
I'm so sorry. So this is a bit of the book. It's like this far in, and it's where Kevin, who's the trans influencer who like starts the SimWorld cult thing, kind of like tells you a little bit about himself.
Chapter 6. Kevin. They say being a cult leader takes riz, but you just need to be a good listener. Sorry. Do you want to switch off?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Some trans men don't like to talk about when they were girls, but I don't mind discussing it. I was a beautiful girl. I had already been scouted for modeling. I lost some contracts when I transitioned, rebranded. It was fine. Though that's not what releasing is about. I can tell you how it started. You just have to promise not to tell.
A couple years ago, I threw out my back. I actually slipped on a banana peel. It sounds like a joke, but that is really what occurred. Anyway, I had to go to a chiropractor for 6 to 8 weeks. He was a triathlete named Ted. Ted flipped me onto my back. Ted put me on a foam roller. My spine cracked. Then something cracked emotionally. It was like a button had been pressed and all my feelings came out. 6 minutes of PT had done what 6 years of therapy had not. I sobbed.
Awkwardly, Ted comforted me. Suddenly, we were making out. I didn't actually want to hook up with Ted, even if he was a good chiropractor. And had a very athletic body with corncob abs. I focused on Ted's deltoids, which were really defined, as I saw when he took his shirt off. Ted's glute muscles were also defined. When I got home, I ordered a foam roller, the kind with little ridges, allowing it to relax your muscles at key pressure points. So that's how I start. I ask people where their bodies hurt, and then I use the foam roller to do some light massage. If I were an evil cult leader and not just a normal one, I would say that foam rolling makes people physically and emotionally vulnerable, allowing them to be manipulated. But that's not me. Instead, I ask people what their unknowns are.
I was going to trademark unknown unknowns, but it had already been said by this guy called Donald Rumsfeld. He's kind of like George Bush. And like Rumsfeld once said, there are things we know we know. We also know there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there are some things we do not know, but there are also unknown unknowns, the ones we don't know we don't know. According to Wikipedia, Rumsfeld had first used unknown unknowns to describe the lack of evidence linking the government of Iraq with the supply of weapons of mass destruction. I didn't know what that meant, but I promised myself that one day I'd find out.
While releasing clearly worked on not just an emotional, but also a spiritual level, I quickly realized that to upscale, I needed technology. A disembodied, embodied experience was what made releasing perfect for people who couldn't be me but wanted to. Audiences are often surprised when I tell them how low-tech this whole thing began. Just in-person releasing sessions and then virtual meetups to release in a game of Sims. But Taylor helped me fix all that. Helped me fix them. Using Sims was just a workaround until Taylor showed me how I could integrate it with some VSI prototypes. He told me VSI's speculative futures didn't look kindly on VR, but that he could see my vision. I appreciated that.
When Enrique from VSI first got in touch, I freaked out and didn't open the email for days. I know that's unprofessional, and Enrique is so nice, but he just wanted me to do releasing on Taylor, to give him a sense of our company's product, he wrote. I don't think he knew that we'd hooked up, and I didn't really like how he spoke about releasing. It's not a product, and I like products. But Taylor told me that's just what those guys are like. I nodded like I didn't know, even though my dad had clients like that around for dinner all the time when I was a kid. So when Taylor came in, I showed him how to foam roll his hips, how to let gravity pull him down, increasing circulation across his IT bands. I stood behind him, unsure if it should be sexual or not, watching him foam roll the muscle fibers between the backs of his legs and his ass.
How do you feel?
Good.
Actually?
I mean, it just kind of felt like a massage.
In many ways, it is just a message. I mean, a massage.
What if we do it in sync? No.
Okay, yes, great idea.
Taylor laughed. A sharp, defined laugh.
Ha ha ha. Almost disappointed.
So where does the trauma come in?
What do you mean?
What do you mean? That's the goal, right? Getting rid of stuff. What do you mean? Oh, join in. When you nod your head, yes.
Feel free to join if you know the words.
What you want to
say no. What do you mean? Hey,
yeah. When you don't want me to move, but you tell me to go.
I wanted to tell Taylor that releasing was about so much more than just that, but he looked sad. He started talking again.
At least that's the goal for our clientele, trans people on a budget.
I understand, I said. I understand is always a useful phrase, even when it is not true.
You've been using the prototypes I lent you, right? The electrodes and stuff? VSI will want to know if they've been effective. That's part of why I'm here, to test them out.
His voice faded, and his face had returned to its usual businesslike tone. I can do it all if you want, I said. It's just a bit more intense. Taylor shrugged, and then he looked at me and winked, as if this were a rom-com, as if he were a male manipulator manipulating, as if the little extra bit of magic you needed in life was there in the eye of his eyes.
I think I can handle it. You know, this type of stuff doesn't usually work on me.
What do you mean? I repeated, and I could see him getting frustrated with me. He ran his hand over his hair, and then it stopped over his mouth. He was muffled as he said,
I mean, I've done lots of stuff already. Therapy, EMDR, hypnosis, regression.
I tried to hide my surprise. It wasn't that Taylor seemed particularly fucked up. He just didn't seem that therapized. I had thought he was kind of perfectly formed. What? I mean, were you just looking for,
I mainly just did all that shit because it was available. I got a deal with the VSI insurance when I started, and I wanted to make the most of it. He rushed his words together. And as for what I was looking for, well, he looked at me. I guess you'll find out, won't you, when we start?
If you're worried about it affecting like us, I don't have to be in the session.
His pupils flicked to the side, avoiding me. Maybe us was too much. Yeah, he said. Maybe that would be best, you know, for now, for us. For us. For us.
I understand, I said. I put the electrodes on his skull.
Whether or not releasing works isn't up to me. It isn't even up to you. It's actually up to the sim world. The longer you've been there, using the programs, your data pumping through the company's core, the more easily its machine learning systems can harvest your unconscious mind. The thing about being a mere vessel for a greater power is that the results get to be a surprise to me as well. As Taylor lost consciousness, I put on my noise-canceling headphones, clapped twice so that the lights dimmed automatically, and looked up at the screen. Taylor's trauma was about to play.